Hello and welcome to Our Time. He's an award-winning journalist whose work has been published Australia-wide and internationally. He lives in South Australia where he surfs, performs as a drummer and has run a fringe theatre company that has produced works both in London and here in Adelaide. He's also worked with cats in the UK and not the furry ones. We both have something very serious in common, however. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello, Malcolm.
The first time I've said that to anybody on this program in 14 years.
I can imagine. It's not many of us.
We were just talking, though, about the fact that Malcolm isn't that common a name, excepting two of our Prime Ministers have been called Malcolm.
That's right, there are two. Yeah, how about that?
So what made your parents call you Malcolm?
I don't know exactly, but they were considering the name Michael. Thankfully, they didn't call me that, because everyone's called Michael. Well, there's a lot of Michaels.
Oh,
but
I get called Michael a lot.
There is a Malcolm in the family on the Yorke Peninsula somewhere. I met him a long, long time ago. He's a very distant relative. So
when you were surfing?
No, as a kid. And he was, he was eccentric from my memory. I was very small, but he took us out the back and showed us, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but he did the most random thing. He took us out the back and showed us how what the inside of a sheep's brain looks like. When we were little kids, so that was my first.
That's interesting.
That's right. Just sort of cut it open right there in front of us.
That is interesting, because my experience with sheep brain was to push my mother's fork from the vegetables in the little baby dish across to the crumb brains.
Oh, right.
So there's another Malcolm connecting story.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're here to talk about you, not to talk about brains. Being a journalist, being a writer, being a show producer, where did it start?
It started for me as a drummer. I was a musician playing in bands and so on when I was a teenager in high school. And then I always did a lot of writing in school. English was the one subject I was good at, I suppose, and consistently good and cared about. I struggled to care about a lot of subjects I did at school, but I passed. But that was one subject I was always good at, and I could always write. And when I was younger too, and in fact, when I was little, I wrote a book that my parents got very excited about. And,
have you still got it?
I don't know what happened to it. It was like a little story, and they got excited about it, and they asked me if I wanted to get it published and self-published with a friend of theirs and all this sort of stuff when I was little.
Oh, really?
And I said no because I was embarrassed.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, it's a stupid move.
Well, so much of our past is forgotten.
Yeah. I don't know where it is, but...
Well, it's forgotten by your next generation, your son, family, and then you're forgotten after the next generation.
It's true.
To have these little things, I think, historically, is so valuable, particularly for families.
Yeah, definitely. For whatever reason, it's probably one of my little regrets. I probably should have got it published. Probably should have agreed to it, because that would have probably made my life further down the track a lot easier.
Never know, it might be still floating around in some back drawer somewhere.
Possibly. But anyway, so writing was always my thing. I was always good at it. But then I was drumming.
What was the attraction for drumming?
It wasn't the first instrument I started playing, but
I know what it was.
Yeah, it was a different instrument altogether. And
you can say.
I played the flute.
Yes, well, that's better than the recorder.
Yeah, and when I went to high school, I did music, and they said, "What instrument do you want to play?" And I didn't know what I was doing. I said, I'll play the trumpet. I played that for a year, and then I just really liked the sound of the drums. And they had a really good drummer there, another kid in my class, and I just loved the sound of it. So, the next year I said I want to be a drummer and started drumming from there.
But you did the thing that a lot of young guys do, I suppose, and girls do, which is find out what's happening in the rest of the world. What took you to the UK?
So with the music, so after school I went to music college. I went to Noarlunga TAFE. They had a music performance college down there. It's no longer there, but it was a good one. And that sort of had me playing in bands, and I was doing the circuit in Adelaide and all that sort of thing. And then through a music school, the Blackie Music School, which I had an affiliation with because I used to teach there, and I did some drum lessons there as well when I was younger, they heard of someone looking for a drummer, and they were going to the Middle East, and they needed a drummer for this band that was going to play in Bahrain. And the word got to me, and I said, hell yeah, I'll do that. I was thinking, cool, that's a way out of Adelaide. Also a way to the UK. Was already thinking in my head, that's what I want to do.
Oh, okay. So you did have a plan to get to the UK?
Yeah, I thought, well, I'll go to this band and then...
I was going to say, though, just stopping your life journey there, pity you didn't keep playing the flute, because it would have been a lot easier to pack up than a drum kit.
That's right. I did have to take my drum kit. They had a kit over there, so that was good.
Yes, that's often the way.
But I kind of I didn't know what was going to happen. I was pretty young, and I said, oh, if this band's really good, I'll keep going with them. But I did 3 months with them, and then in Bahrain, which is quite an experience.
It's an eye-opener, isn't it? Anywhere in that area.
Yeah, and we were playing in this, I think it's called the Delmont Hotel, and it had 5 different bars. They had like the Australian bar, and they had the Indian bar, and the Russian bar, and a couple other bars, I can't remember what they were, and there were all these bands, and every band was very different, and so people just went there and milled about, and they went to our bar was very unpopular. we were.
Why was that?
I don't know. No one wanted to see a bunch of Aussies playing covers, which is what we were doing.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, and they were bad covers, has to be said. So, but it was interesting.
So the covers were what, from the 90s or?
Oh, we had a few good ones. Like we played. Who was it? Did the album Supernatural. Great guitarist. He had that song. Oh my God.
Yes.
Mental Blank.
I know that feeling. That's a good name for a song, Mental Blank.
Sorry, it's going to come to me. I'm going to feel.
Yes, it will. That's all right.
Terrible about this because he's exceptionally
Just
good.
interrupt any time it does.
Yeah.
Well, you're playing in Bahrain. Yeah. What happened to the band? Did it just move on?
Or
you did?
We tried to get another gig afterwards, like another residency, and we did like an audition for something. We didn't get that one, and I said, well, I've done my bit. I'm going to the UK now, and that was okay. And then I think they did end up getting another gig somewhere, and they continued on. But it was one of those like sort of cover bands put together for a hotel thing. Yep. So it was kind of had moving parts.
Were you writing during this period as well?
I was, yeah. And I'd been writing music before that because when I went to TAFE, I was also doing a lot of composition there. It was kind of half the reason I went. Mm-hmm. So throughout this time, I was writing music, and it's kind of I had this cut a long story short. I've always had this like juxtaposition between writing words and music. So in different parts of my life, it's more words. Other parts of my life, it's more music, and it sort of moves in and out. So in that period of time, it was mostly music. So with the idea to write music for theatre.
Right. So you ended up in the UK and got a job working backstage with Cats.
Yep. That was great. That followed me walking all around London with a resume, knocking on every theatre door in the West End, and
asking for work in a show.
Yep.
And you got that.
Yeah.
What did you actually do?
I was a follow spot operator.
Oh, okay.
Spotlights, yeah. So they had and that was great. That was.
Did you go well with the Midnight song? Midnight.
Well.
This is my big chance.
Sure,
I'm a moon.
The funny thing is, the day I got that job, I started, and I got so sick, and I got this ridiculous UK virus thing that I'd never had before. So it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was so sick. I just remember being like doing this with this spotlight. But anyway, I got over that. But I got through it. So.
You never got to Andrew Lloyd Webber to say, here, look, I've written this?
I did.
Did you?
Yes. So
probably the worst thing you could do, actually. Because writers don't like to hear anybody else's stuff.
He did not like me approaching him at all. And it was funny because I ended up working for Cass about 2.5 years. And after a few months, they put me on full-time. And, just one of the most interesting experiences of my life, working backstage with all these other artists and writers and producers, and everyone up there was wanting to be somewhere else doing their thing, but we're all working on spotlights. So
interesting, isn't it? How that can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Really.
But it's a good way to learn how the industry works.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at something and you're seeing the different changes and performances every night.
Yeah, that's right.
Little mistakes that are quickly hidden.
Yeah.
All of those things. Did that help you with writing? Because I know you've written musicals. Did that help you with sort of being able to visualise what it was you wanted to produce?
I think. And to an extent, yep. I mean, I've heard the music for Cats probably 400, 500 times. Yeah. It's locked in my brain. I'm not going to say I love the show, but and just as a disclaimer, I'm not actually a musical person. The ones I write are more, they're not sort of like stage musical singing about whatever. They're more sort of like, if you think of like the Pink Floyd The Wall, the way that was produced into a TV, that sort of style. So it's a little bit different.
Where the storyline is enclosed within the music.
That's right. And the music sort of drives it.
I just suppose Cats is that too, but
Cats is a bit like that.
who knows what Cats is about?
Cats is very much like that. It was quite innovative. It's based on poems, and people say it doesn't really make sense. And well, there's a very vague storyline there, but it works.
But everybody sent up the film. I quite like the film, but I hated the live show.
I never saw the film actually, but
Well, it's interesting how people become devotees for shows like that, and they know all the music score, they know who did what, who played what. But really, when you go to the theatre, I like a story.
Yeah, it's definitely a dance music thing, and that's all it is. And
contemporary dance music.
Yeah, that's right. But the music's good. It works, and I was with the original production, and the original theatre was in, so it was all very retro and legit.
Now, when we come back in a tick, we're going to talk about these two books. This one with a particularly interesting title, which your son has told me is very much like you. And this is your new book.
It's my new one, yes.
Talk about that when we come back in just a moment, so stay with us. Malcom Sutton is our guest. We were just joking because our floor manager isn't sure which Malcolm she's talking to. Well, she knows, but we didn't. Talk about this. What led to writing this book, which says here, when Christ appears on the Adelaide beach in the middle of a long, hot summer, Pete's as surprised as anyone. Where did this idea come from?
It's going to sound like a bit of a cliche, but from a dream. I had a dream about Jesus Christ returning on a beach with fanfare and thunder and stuff, but it was a fake, and it was all put on and staged. And,
pyrotechnics?
Well, not in my dream. It was quite real in my dream.
Oh, okay.
But in this book,
this is what happens.
So that's the title. The fake, it's staged by a political party, basically.
Right.
If you can imagine that. And
I wonder if Trump had anything to do with that.
Yeah, it's not so far-fetched anymore, is it?
It isn't, is it? No. What's happened to our politics? I mean, everyone's crazy at the moment. They're all becoming the next Messiah.
That's right.
Terrifying.
It's madness.
But how long did it take you to write this? Or is this something you've been working on up until this point?
I wrote that book probably in 3 months, I think, an earlier draft. So I wrote that when I was at university, when I went back to uni. On a semester break, I sort of started it, and then when I finished, finished it off then. So,
right.
Yeah.
This new one, Twitches. I can't read what it says on the back because the writing's too small.
That's all right. So this one's about the hunt for a pyromaniac in the Adelaide Hills. And it's kind of, but it's a sort of darkly comedic thriller. But it's also about an advertising guy who's sort of self-destructing and very cynical about the industry. And he's getting blamed for the fires in the hills. And
where do the ideas for these come from?
So this one...
Because I know you're in the middle of another one.
This one's was a bit of a strange beast when I wrote it. So its roots go back to a figure we call the Blackwood Clown. And this is a person or folklore or whatever it was who in the 90s when we were high school used to dress up as a clown and hang out in the forest and scare the crap out of people. And this is before all that stuff that happened with the Stephen King revamp and that sort of thing. So this is what he did. And there's all these stories about this guy who'd some real funny ones, like at twilight at Frank Smith's Dam in Coromandel Valley. He appeared from up on the hill, and he had these red LED lights for eyes and screamed and scared the crap out of people.
It would have.
And so when we were kids, we used to talk about it, and everyone's, I saw him, and I never saw him. None of my friends saw him, but somebody somewhere had always seen him.
There's always somebody somewhere that saw it, a friend of a friend.
Yeah, so I've tapped into that with this book, and I've got some of the stories in there about the clown are true stories as told by people in Blackwood. And so it's kind of got that vibe to it. So it's got a bit of supernatural realism going on in there as well. It's a whole mismatch of many, many things.
Okay.
So it's a crime thriller. It's got a lot of comedy in there, dark humour. It's a satire. It's it's completely psychedelic and crazy. And I'm actually surprised they published it, but that's great.
Did you go through a psychedelic time yourself?
Not really. unfortunately. Maybe I'll still do that one day.
What about the surfy side of your life?
I love surfing. Yeah, it's...
Not that your hair tells that story.
It's the one thing I do that I guess, calms me. And, cause,
I've heard that a lot, actually.
And it's a really good thing to just have that's just completely different to everything else and gets you back to nature. And I wish I was a lot better at it, but,
as long as it's fun, whatever it is. So you're writing books, you've written a couple of musicals, but you've got a day job.
Yes. So I work as...
And guess what that is? He said, writing.
Yeah, right. So this is why I went to journalism, is because I had to get a day job when I came back from London and the Middle East and that sort of stuff. And I was like, right, I need to get a day job. What am I good at? What can I do? I can write. So I went back to university and decided, right, well, one way to make money out of writing is to be a journalist. So that's what I did.
But you've covered some fascinating stories I've seen online.
Yep.
What's something that really impressed you or amazed you or stopped you dead in your tracks?
Oh, I've done some good ones. I think I did a really big long feature on the dolphins in Port Adelaide when they were dying a few years ago, and they didn't really know why, and they still don't know why. I did a really long, extensive feature on that and met some pretty interesting people.
So how do you write a feature though? How much research do you have to do? Where do you find the people to give you the information?
Yeah, it's like following a trail. So I get an idea and I go, right, I want to investigate that, or deep dive as the modern word is these days. And yeah, you just jump in and start making calls and researching, and then you just sort of follow it and follow it and follow it.
Do you find people open up easily?
Definitely.
Or they do?
Yeah.
Because they're subjects they want explained?
Yeah. And I'm working as a feature writer now, so I'm not
with the ABC.
With the ABC
on
with
radio.
ABC Radio Adelaide.
Yep.
And I write for there, but it may as well be the ABC because it all goes to the same place where you read it. Mm-hmm. So I get to. I'm in a lucky position because I get to mostly choose the stories I do now. So I'm not on the hard news cycle anymore, which I'm not really interested in anymore.
No,
so,
but when you think how necessary journos really are to uncover the truth,
yep.
I mean, because there is so much fake news, and in America just seems to be full of it, and they just seem to be wallowing in it, which is frightening. But we can see that starting to creep into what's happening here in Australia, particularly politically.
Definitely.
How do you discern what's truth and what isn't? And also what's opinion and what's truth?
Well, I would suggest that anything you read on social media, take with a pinch of salt. It's likely bollocks. It's just. And that might sound like, you're mainstream media, which is the other word that gets... But the thing is, it hasn't necessarily hasn't been fact-checked. It hasn't...
No, the ABC isn't really mainstream media in many ways.
No, but...
Really?
Depends who you talk to, but yeah.
Well, difficult for the ABC not to tell the truth. There's so many checks and balances.
Well, that's right. You literally can't. I'm not saying everything the ABC does is great or wonderful, but you can be mostly guaranteed that everything out there is accurate. So because it has to be. So... Social media is a big problem for media. They don't, in my point of view, the media has not adapted to it well. It's changed the ballgame completely, and they've gone off chasing the clicks and trying to get attention on Facebook, and that's
not only
really
that, but you're also combating AI now as well.
Yeah, well, that's the next thing.
Writing stories.
That's the next thing. Yeah. So I haven't come across that personally yet. I haven't really seen that at work in the real media landscape. I'm sure it's at work on the social media landscape.
Oh,
definitely.
It must be.
But I haven't seen it in terms of what I'm reading anyway, put it that way. So,
do you think it's just a lack of education of people wanting to believe and write rubbish or unfactual stuff? I mean, some of the stories coming out are just, what planet were you on? Yeah. Or what were you drinking or eating or taking at the time that you made this up?
That's the problem with social media. It's both its benefit and the real bad part of it is that everybody's got a voice. And frankly, some people shouldn't have a voice because they're mad. Or they're manipulating society down a certain path.
Or they're being manipulated. Which is the more frightening thing.
Yeah.
With the musical work that you've done, and I know you're working on something at the moment, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm, for the past 2.5 years, so I've been polishing this book, and because I wrote this some time ago, I've been working on music again for like a really major sort of stage show, which I've been wanting to do for many, many years. And I've sort of put it on the back burner for years. So it's kind of, now's the time. So it's probably going to be called Snout. Many years ago, I did a smaller version of it at the Adelaide Fringe. It didn't have any music, it was just a little experimental thing, which went well.
Which is what the Fringe is great for, actually, to try out new ideas. Yeah.
And got some good reviews and stuff, and some bad ones, but mostly good. And so this is that, but yeah, enhanced multiple times. And it's a different story, but it's the same thing. It's about
But it's about a pig.
It's about genetically modified blue pigs.
Blue pig, of course it is. Yeah. The hard thing is, though, a writer writes, has got this imagination of a storyline.
And they're in space.
Oh, of course they are. Where else would they be? Pigs in space.
That's right.
I think that might have been done. But, you know, you've got this concept, you've got it on the page, you've got it in your head, you can hear it musically, you can hear the arrangement, then you've got to give it to somebody else to make it happen. How hard is that?
Well, yeah, I'm not at that point yet, but I will definitely want some help. So I've just really been concentrating on getting the music finished, and because this one is going to be driven by the music entirely. So yeah, I've got I know what the plot is, I know the storyline, I know what's happening, but I haven't written the lyrics yet. For me, that's that comes.
Oh, it's interesting. So you've got the storyline in your head. Mm-hmm. No, you've got all the music.
Yep.
But you've not put words into them.
I haven't written the words yet, no.
So you don't know how the music's going to fit the words, or the words fit the music?
I've got a vague idea how the words will fit the music. Yeah.
Are you sure you weren't with Andrew Lloyd Webber for too long?
I only met him very briefly. And
no, but a lot of his tunes are pretty much copies of other tunes.
Yeah, right, I've heard that. Yeah, no, this is nothing like
Not that he was plagiarising as such, but it's very hard to get melody lines out of your head once you've heard them.
Yeah,
you know, they stick like earworms, just stick.
A lot of subconscious stuff.
You write away, and suddenly, I've heard that before, and you think, no, I heard that in my ear.
Yeah, this is pretty fresh, I think. I mean, I guess most composers and musicians would say that about their work, but I haven't heard too much like this. So it's definitely it's a little bit different.
All right, so we'll stand by, and it's called.
It's probably going to be called Snout.
Snout.
Or it's either going to be called Snout, or it's going to be called Snout: The Return. So, but we might just go with Snout.
No,
I don't think
just call it Snout, because then you've got a second version to follow up.
No one's going to remember the first one anyway. So
you don't know that. You don't know that. Look, we're going to be back in a tick and continue this lively conversation with Malcom Sutton. Malcom Sutton has been our guest on this episode of Our Time. I've just got a couple of quick questions. Now, when you're being a journalist instead of a writer for books or for musical shows, where do you find the stories? Like, where do they come to you? How do they come to you?
As a journalist, mostly I do stories about things that, one, either I get interested in, okay, well, that's an interesting story, or it's something that pisses me off that's going on in the world.
But how do you find out about that? You know, because some of the stories that I've looked at that you've written, I wouldn't have known anything about to start with.
Yeah, I guess...
Are they tip-offs?
No, most of the time it's just something I've got a question in my mind about.
That you've picked up on a news service, or...?
No, I might just like, what's behind that, or why is that happening, or, that annoys me, what's the story with that, or that's mostly how it starts with me, or I'll just see something and go, ugh. It kind of helps if you have a brain that's always questioning stuff, or like getting annoyed with things, which is happening more with me as I get older. But and every now and then there's a tip off for sure. But
because you're working for the ABC, do some of those things come through there?
Yes, definitely.
Or are you a free agent?
I'm mostly free, but within the boundaries of the ABC, obviously. But some of it comes to the ABC, and because I work with ABC Radio Adelaide, they've got producers, and they go through a million topics every day.
Of course.
With all their programs. So sometimes one of them will pop up and go, actually, that's really interesting. I might find out more about that and delve a little bit deeper. So that happens too.
Well, there's always something happening. That's the point, isn't it?
That's right.
So always. It's the human condition, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Well, I would like these books to sell really well, and,
Wouldn't we all?
So I don't have to be a journalist anymore. and then get the theatre stuff really, really moving. I would like to see this show do well and just go off on tour. That's where I'd like to be. And surfing along the way.
And surfing along the way.
My surfboard will be
So you only want to play country towns where there's a beach, is that
100%.
the story?
Yeah. If it goes inland, I'll go on holiday. Yeah.
Okay, well there's always the river.
Yeah.
Canberra. I saw them on a program the other night on telly with the little motor underneath the surfboard so that you can stand on the surfboard and hydrofoil? Hydrofoil's up or something?
There's all these little gadgets coming out.
There's so much to talk about and so little time. Thank you so much for sharing this half hour with us. Malcolm, the only other Malcolm I've ever had on the program. So until next time, keep yourself nice till then.